Then the third aspect of that was that you were to join the military, where you would have a short career that would lead to a relatively early retirement.
Yes.
And after your retirement, you were to be sent to Europe in an ambassadorship.
I was to go to Germany and to receive training and education, and later I would become ambassador for a period of a few years, and then return to the United States to become a local.
You would become an elected
public.
official,
Yes.
responsive to monarch.
Yes.
Now, as I understand it, you accomplished the first element of that. You went through the training that they provided.
Yes.
And you went through the second phase of that, which was to find people of political or financial means in the community and put them in compromising positions.
They found the people, I didn't.
Oh, okay,
They
so,
set up the engagements and the encounters with the person. I simply was told to, when they program the personalities, or the triggers, as I called them,
uh-huh.
they would call me up and they would use a code. I would simply switch into that trigger, go to where they told me to go, whether it would be or get on an airplane, because they would already have the tickets there. They would have the tickets there under a name that only that trigger would know, and go to wherever it was. There would be somebody waiting for them in that city and take them to wherever it was that they were supposed to go, bring them back to the airport, put them on the plane. They would come back home, and as soon as they walked in the door, the memory of everything that had just happened would be erased.
Gone.
Completely.
Okay, now, did Monarch pay for any or all of the travel that you've described during portions of your earlier testimony in this deposition, where you said you had made a couple hundred trips to the coasts?
Mikey testified.
I'm sorry, where Mikey testified that there had been lots of travel over the years between 80 and 86. Is the question too long?
No, I understand.
Okay.
Some of them, yes.
So some of your travel was sponsored by Monarch.
Yes.
You said that Monarch targeted the individuals that you were to pursue and to compromise.
Yes.
Again, is that Mr. Plemons?
Mr. Plemons or one of the other local callers.
Okay, and you don't know the identity of the other local callers?
No.
Did Mr. Plemons or any of the other local callers ever target Harold Anderson?
No.
Did Mr. Plemons, any of the other locals, ever target Mr. Bear?
Yes.
Do you recall who targeted Mr. Bear?
It was after I had first met him, and I was programmed to begin attending parties that he held.
So you were under a directive from the Monarch organization to attend and to encourage and to continue in a relationship with Mr. Bear so that ultimately he could be compromised. Is
Yes.
that correct? Is the same true of Mr. Citron?
No.
What about Mr. Wadman?
No.
And you say it is not true with respect to Harold Anderson?
No.
Who else were you directed to target?
Jerry Steds.
Who is Jerry Studs?
I am not aware of who. He is a political figure.
Okay. Do you recall any other names?
I was not to target Barney Franks, but I was to meet with him. on several occasions.
And did you do that?
Yes.
That's Barney Franks, the congressman from
Yes.
Massachusetts. Were there any other individuals that you were targeted to pursue?
I am not aware of any of the other names.
So your mission related, at least locally, only to Alan Baer and Peter Citron?
No, not Peter Citron.
I'm sorry.
Only Mayor and person that had not been mentioned, King.
Larry King.
Yes.
How did you report on your activities?
They would call me after I was done with the activity, and I was to tell them.
So, how often would you say you reported to your superiors on your activities with Alan Baer and Larry King?
Once a month.
As I understand your testimony, the system broke down in 1986 as a result.
Leaks.
Oh, I'm sorry, I misunderstood.
That the breakdown was consisted of leaks which started flooding into Paul's memories and into the other personalities started remembering things that happened to other personalities. And that's what initially started to break it down, was being flooded with things that he thought were simply hellish nightmares.
Okay, let me again make sure that I understand this. In 1986, by virtue of a breakdown of the personalities, Paul couldn't handle it.
No,
No, that's not right, or
no,
no?
he couldn't handle it.
Paul could not handle it. Therefore, Paul wanted the others to get out of the business of espionage and
No, he didn't know about it. It was Mikey who began telling people things that had happened to him. And that was how, when they would ask Paul about the things that Mikey had said, Paul was amazed or more stunned, remembering that he had not said that.
when this began to happen, what did you tell your superiors in Monarch?
I told them that information was being disassociated.
And they stopped asking you at that point to conduct operations?
No, they attempted to correct the problem, but in April of 1986, when it became public, they then attempted to destroy all their information by using phone calls to myself, which would start the process of eliminating memories.
Did you feel that you were personally at risk in 1986 from members of the Monarch operation?
Not at the start, no.
How did they attempt to correct the situation before they decided to terminate the operation?
In 1989, they attempted to reprogram, and they started to do this. I started to go to military bases, and I would simply, and this is noted by my family and my grandmother who I lived with, I would simply disappear for days at a time, and nobody would know where I was, and I would come back completely unaware of my events. And what they were attempting to do was try and get me reintegrated into their program. And in 1989, shortly before my arrest, I was to target Alan Baer once again.
Which military bases did you go to in 1989 for reprogramming?
I went to Presidio, I went to Fort Riley, Kansas, and to Fort
What?
Ent Air Force Base, Colorado, or the North American Air Defense Command.
Do you recall what city that was in?
It was near Colorado Springs.
And again, do you recall the names of any of the individuals who tried to reprogram you in 1989?
Colonel Michael Angelo Aquino himself attempted to do so.
Are there any other individuals in Omaha that have served in the same capacity that you have served in with respect to the Monarch operation?
Yes, but their names are not available.
Why?
I do not know their true names. I only know them by their monarch name.
Do you know how to get in touch with them?
No.
Where do you see them?
I do not see them anymore.
Do they also have multiple personality syndrome?
Yes.
So again, the multiple personality syndrome is a result of an active effort on the part of the United States to create in your person a variety of personalities.
Partially. That's not always the case with the multiple.
I'm asking about in your case.
In my case, most, yes.
How, if at all, do the facts that you've testified to and the complaint that you brought against the defendants in this lawsuit relate to the Monarch operation?
In most cases, they do not.
In Alan Bear's case, though, it does. Is that correct?
Not completely. I met him before before Monarch directed me. During one of their deprogramming sessions of me, they discovered that I had been with a man named Alan Bear, and they knew who he was.
So they then utilized the relationship that you had already developed to further their own interests.
Yes.
Do you have any idea why Monarch was interested in Alan Bear?
He was as far as I'm aware, for financial purposes.
I'm sorry.
For financial purposes.
They wanted Alan Bear's money?
They wanted not really his money, but connections that he had with drug trafficking is what they really wanted, so they could bring drugs in and sell them and use the money for their program.
So they believed that Alan Bear was engaged in drug trafficking and they wanted to tie into his operation?
Yes.
And they felt that if you could compromise him, that they would somehow be able to infiltrate this drug trafficking?
Yes.
Again, let me ask you, are all of the people that you are aware of who are involved in the operation Satanists?